I love this about Dubai. There's this famous quote by Sheikh Mohammed, right? You have to imagine the future and you execute it. You don't just await the future, but you actually create it. And that's very much the energy of Dubai. You imagine that future and then you make it possible.
First of all, what inspired you to create this? And second, do you think that there are enough platforms in Dubai to cater to female leaders like that? I feel so touched by your words. Really, truly. The beauty of this conversation is we did not once discuss, these are the nice things you need to say. And these are kind of just the genuine things that you and several of our other guests on this podcast have said. So it's really nice to hear. Hello and welcome to the Live, Work and Play in Dubai podcast for Economic Times. My name is Amandeep and I'm here to talk about some of the industries that are shaping Dubai's future. From innovation and finance to sustainability and culture, it is all happening in Dubai. Join us as we uncover insights from business leaders, entrepreneurs and visionaries. Joining me today is Vera Futorjanski, who has so many hats on her head that I don't think there are any words that I can say to fully describe the extent of your expertise and skills. So Vera is an LP in a VC firm. She has worked with the Dubai Future Foundation. She has worked with in the Prime Minister's office, international experience with the EU and the UN. I could go on and on and on, but I would like for you to take over from here. So welcome, Vera. It is an honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start with your personal journey. What brought you to Dubai, the work that you've done here so far, the industries that you've been able to sort of experience firsthand. I would love to hear from you what that experience has been like overall.
Yeah, with pleasure. I spent the last 10 years in Dubai. I initially came here as an entrepreneur in residence for a German venture builder called Rocket Internet. And if you go back 11 years, so it was 11 years ago when I first came here, Dubai was not what we see now, right? It was not the innovative place. You could not do so much online on app. I came in as an entrepreneur in residence to help launch HelpLink. And then while I was here, I saw an opportunity for a beauty on demand business, because you have all those, we have all those salons here and spas, but people had to call, if you remember 10 years ago, right? Yeah. You couldn't just order on an app. So I knew that somebody else within Rocket Internet was building a similar business in Brazil. So I told him, let's share the IT resources, and I built this in the UAE. So that was my first gig. I was supposed to come for 4 months and I ended up staying for 10 years, which, says a lot. I think I wouldn't have had the same opportunities anywhere else in the world. I was really here at the right time and the right place when Dubai decided, we are going to diversify, from oil, and we will become this, most innovative city on the planet. So after running the startup that I built for about a year, Dubai government reached out to me because that was the year Sheikh Mohammed announced as the year of innovation, and they were looking for people to help them build innovative projects. So they reached out to me, and that was such an obvious decision to make. So of course I said yes, and I joined. I think I was employee number 5. I joined Dubai Future Foundation as part of the founding team for Dubai Future Accelerators, and I was one of the most interesting, amazing, exciting projects I've ever worked on. Dubai Future Accelerators was an amazing, really exciting initiative that was built by Dubai government at that time that we came to build together. So the idea was to create innovation within government entities. So what we did is we sat with government entities like, RTA, DIWA, Health Authority, and we imagined a future with them. Where do they want to be in the future in, 10, 20, 30 years from the day when we sat with them? It was called design thinking back then. Now we call it foresight. It's, a big part of the work that I do. So we sat together, we imagined that future, and then we as a team scouted the world to find the companies that are working on those particular topics, be it Hyperloop or flying taxis, which are coming to Dubai next year. We started that project, back then in 15 or 16, when Dubai Future Accelerators, the first cohort, launched. We looked into companies that work on blockchain strategy because, as you remember, Dubai, had this ambition to become a complete, paperless government, everything on blockchain. So yeah, we looked everywhere in the world to find those companies, and we brought them to Dubai. we paired them with the different government entities to really develop those projects in-house, which, is much better than have R&D in-house. It's much more expensive. So you bring companies that are working on this together, you pair them physically in an accelerator that we built back then in Emirates Towers. And you let them work on those initiatives, which accelerates innovation within the government departments. And it helps those companies because they get a partner to work with. So yeah, very exciting. I think great success. I really think that was one of the main initiatives that really positioned Dubai as the innovation city it is nowadays.
That's actually so interesting. The examples that you've pointed out, the flying taxis and the blockchain companies, those are the things that now, 10 odd years hence, we are seeing results for. So like you said, just this morning I was reading about how autonomous taxis are going to be the reality in Dubai as well. So big technology coming through. We've got the digital dirham, which was launched just over the Eid holidays, which we've just come out of. So when you think about the work that you did back then and you see all of that coming into fruition now, is there, a specific part of this technology, a specific part of everything that you did that was the most exciting to you? Maybe it could be a specific industry, so you're excited about the digital dirham, or is it anything else that makes you feel like, yes, this is it. This is what Dubai's future really looks like?
Well, I think the flying taxis is an amazing example.
Yeah.
We thought about it back then. We only imagine it. And some countries take maybe 100 years to get to that, preferable future.
Yeah.
But back then, we only imagined how could that future look like. And I love this about Dubai. I mean, there's this famous quote by Sheikh Mohammed, right? You have to imagine the future and you execute it. You don't just await the future, but you actually create it. And that's very much the energy of Dubai. You imagine that future and then you make it possible. So I am excited about the flying taxis concept because it's just wonderful to hear that it is happening next year. Yeah, I think there are so many more. I mean, the digital dirham you mentioned was also very exciting. There are so many opportunities. In general, I think RTA in Dubai is doing such a great job. I mean, the Road and Transportation Authority, how Dubai grew so much over the last 11 years since I came here to live. I mean, yeah, it's just unbelievable, especially compared to many other places I lived in before or where I spent a lot of time. I'm very impressed by how fast, how efficient, and how things can be done without, let's take the RTA example, without the closing the Sheikh Zayed road ever, the whole road was lifted to bring the canal underneath. Yeah. I think this was absolutely impressive. And I think, really huge respect to Mata Altaya, who's the DG of RTA. I think he's doing a really impressive work in Dubai, and so are many other people. So I'm excited about all the big innovation initiatives that will come, because I think Dubai, what I love about it is it thinks in a bold way. It's this bold, big, innovative projects that we imagine and make possible here. So yeah, that's the beauty of Dubai, really.
I feel so touched by your words. Really, truly I do, because the beauty of this conversation is we did not once discuss, these are the nice things you need to say. And these are kind of just the genuine things that you and several of our other guests on this podcast have said. So it's really nice to hear.
Well, because it really is true in reality. Yeah. I am very grateful, to Dubai, to the UAE, that I have spent 10 years of my life here, because I would have not had the opportunity to work on such bold, big initiatives in Europe, unfortunately, or anywhere else. So really, I think Dubai, but of course also Abu Dhabi, now also, some of the neighbors like Saudi Arabia, this is where the big initiatives are happening. The 10 years I spent in Dubai led me to form my own company. I'm the founder of Veritas Ventures. We operate at the intersection of foresight and future technologies. We work with governments, corporates, and scale-ups to help them see the future, really to feel and imagine what do we want to be in the future. And then we work backwards, to help them get there. So it's really about leading from the future. I'm also building a leadership academy where we really help leaders, in organizations, governments, in scale-ups to become those leaders that are foresighted, that kind of almost anticipate the trends, that feel what is coming in the future and how can we get ready for that. Because as we all know, we live in so much uncertainty all the time. So it really is about becoming leaders who can deal with uncertainty and who can anticipate the future trends and create a future, a present that is, really is the most preferable for all of us who live in. So it's really about creating impact for yourself and for others and for the world. And at Veritas Ventures, we bring in different experts who can help with that. Yeah.
So another one of the hats that you wear is as the founder of Beyond, which has been described as a curated community for female leaders. So, you've had the opportunity to be involved in these large-scale projects with the Prime Minister's office, with the Future Foundation. And this community that has come about for other female founders and for other female leaders. First of all, what inspired you to create this? And second, do you think that there are enough platforms in Dubai to cater to female leaders like that?
Yeah, so what inspired me is after working for the Prime Minister's office, Dubai Future Foundation, I got an offer to work for a venture capital firm called 500. Back then, 500 startups. Now it's called 500 Global. And they asked me to manage the Middle East for them. And the focus was especially on the Saudi Arabia market. So I started going to Saudi Arabia. I went there for the first time. I think it is, 7 years ago now. It was very different. So I'm impressed by this evolution Saudi Arabia is going through. And so I started going to Saudi, obviously, living in the UAE. And every time I would go on holiday to Europe, visit home in Germany, I realized that a typical German woman has never met an Arab woman, a Saudi, an Emirati, or even an Indian woman for that matter. And I thought, how is it possible that we live in this global world, but we actually don't really know each other? So I decided to change that, and I started gathering diverse women. And I've curated gatherings in Dubai, in Paris, in Berlin, in New York, and also the World Economic Forum in Davos, where I positioned a Saudi woman on a women's AI panel. And, women came afterwards to me saying they were so impressed. I've never seen, an empowered Arab woman on stage. And I was like, I'm surrounded by them in Dubai.
Yeah.
There are so many. So that's how Beyond came about, this organization that I run as my passion project, really, because I find it so important that we make sure we hear different voices, that we diversify the pool, of women we have on stages, and that we also bring diverse women together. Whenever I curate a dinner, it's usually 10 women from 10 different countries, and they learn so much about each other. They leave inspired, they leave thinking, wow, it with a more open mind, and it makes a huge difference. So that's the reason why I do that, yeah.
That's wonderful. I love the idea of having 10 different women from 10 different nationalities. And if anything, Dubai is probably the easiest place to find
Dubai
such a
is
mix.
like United Nations.
Yeah,
basically.
it really
it's
is.
Very easy to curate a table of 10 different women from 10 different countries in Dubai. It's not that easy in Berlin, for example, because we do have, quite a diverse population in Germany as well, but it's not as diverse as Dubai is.
And do you think that, enough has been done to create more such platforms? I mean, I haven't really, off the top of my head, heard of many platforms that try to, bring together women of diversity. I have heard of platforms bringing women leaders together. But do you think that there's enough of this, this kind of network for diversity and for the kind of female role in entrepreneurship? And how important is diversity to you as a leader yourself?
Yeah. Well, diversity is very important to me. That is the reason why I have built Beyond, and that's why I speak on stages about the fact that for example, there's not enough funding going into women. We need to diversify much more at every stage of an organization or business. So I don't think there are enough platforms to answer your question. I really think there could be more, especially on diversity. I mean, obviously, you see many countries now don't think diversity is important in the world. I'm happy that we here really value diversity. Yeah. And I mean, I'm in the innovation space, You can't innovate without diversity. You need to hear other people's opinion. What works best is when you bring diverse people together and let them express their opinions, make sure every voice is heard. Because only through diversity can we innovate in the world. Because you look at things differently. That's how can you create new solutions for things that are maybe look so simple from the outside, but not so simple to solve. So yes, I think we need to create many more networks that bring diversity together. There are networks that are, just for networking, and it's quite, it's great that they exist, but I feel like you don't actually go very deep. So that's why usually when I curate those gatherings, we're not that many. It's between 6 to 15 women. When I curate it, because I think it's important to have a conversation with each one of them. You can go deeper. It's not a quick hello and goodbye.
Yeah.
It's not transactional. I'm a big fan of relationship building. And also, that is why I really love this region, because we are much more about relationship building. It's not a transactional approach like you have in many countries in the West. And
we actually, uncovered this exact point in another episode as well, where we spoke about how elevator pitches are out in this region, and actual solid relationships with people are very much the way forward. So that's good to hear. Very consistent feedback on.
Well, because it really is true. I remember in 2020 we had one of the largest conferences. JITEX had this huge conference back then set up, and I heard Mr. Alabar speaking on stage exactly about that. He was explaining how important it is to build relationships. When you come here, don't ask for money directly. Don't pitch and expect a return directly. It's not the show me the money type of attitude like you have in the US or many Western countries. It really is about building relationships. We want to get to know each other. We want to understand what are your values? Are we aligned? And I think I love it. That's why 10 years of my life, even 11 years by now, because I was born in Kazakhstan, which is very much also relationship building society. So this feels very much like home.
Great. Yeah. And of course, at the end of the day, when you have these relationships, that's where the loyalty aspect comes in. And for a growing economy like the UAE's, we want that loyalty. We want to have the good people here, the people who are here not just for the returns of it, but for kind of the long haul, where we can have these relationships and these values really shaping the society that comes with it. So that's very, very interesting to hear. Yeah. I'm very curious to hear about the role of women that you've seen in your work with the tech startup that you were running, and also within financial services, because you mentioned you were in a venture firm as well. So both of these, technology and financial services, both of these are industries that are traditionally dominated by men. And, we see top level executives also usually men taking up those roles. So did you find that for women in these leadership roles in these industries specifically, it's harder for them to be heard or to present themselves as leaders, to present their ideas? And, if so, why? If not, why?
So, when I first moved here and I built a startup, I remember I spoke on my very first panel. I was very nervous. I took my Iraqi friend Nada with me just for support. And I was looking into a room full of men. It was a panel for startup founders, and it was only men. And 2 or 3 years ago, I was on a panel again, and AB, who back then was with Entrepreneur magazine, he asked me, well, Vera, you're one of the OGs here in this industry. What has changed? And I told him, well, I'm looking at the room now, and they're 50% women. And I think this is a huge achievement that we have, gone through and achieved. We have so many female founders now here in the region. I do still think, and unfortunately statistics confirm that we do not have enough funding going to female founders. It's still globally only 2%, which I find shocking. I've been talking about it on, panels and keynotes and stages for so long, and somehow we still don't have much, movement in that space. So globally 2%, I think here in the region is even under 2%. So we really need to do something about it. One of the most interesting reasons that I've come across for that was a TED Talk I listened to once by, I think she's a Harvard professor or MIT. And she said what happens is that in interviews, or in conversations, when a founder speaks to an investor, the questions are very different for men and women. And that is one of the reasons why there's less funding going to women than to men. So men usually are asked visionary questions, right? What's your vision? Where are you going to? What do you want to be? So they come across as visionary. They come across as bold. Whereas women, when an investor sits in front of a woman, women are being asked questions about the status quo. And women, because they're so diligent, right? We answer those questions. We then say, well, the status quo is this and this, and those are the issues we're facing. So women don't come across as visionary. It was a huge study she did, and just absolutely impressive how questions can affect, the outcome.
Yeah.
So I would advise all female founders to be more bold and visionary in every conversation they have with an investor. It's very important to just say what your vision is, even if you're not being asked that particular question. That makes sure, all politicians work that way, right?
Yeah.
They say what they want to be heard, not necessarily answering the questions. And I would give this advice to female founders as well. Make sure you talk about your vision and not just about the issues you're facing. And, there are statistics also that show that women return more on every dollar invested than men. There's a great BCG study that looked into that and said that every dollar you invest in a woman returns more than every dollar you invest on men. So we actually have statistics.
Yeah.
We have the data, that shows that women return more. We know that. But somehow, change is slow. We as humans, we don't like change. So, this change of the mindset, let's invest in more women, it is happening, but it's very slow. And I really hope that it will accelerate and we will see more female founders, but also female investors. That's a very important point. What happens is, as an investor, you relate to the person in front of you. It's an aspect of relatability is very important. So we need to make sure that you have more female investors on this side of the table. So when they look at a young woman, they feel like, yes, this was me. This could have been me. Like, I want to support this young woman. So it's super important for us to accelerate change, to make sure that we have more women sitting on the side of the table that gives the money.
So what are some initiatives that you can think of that Dubai is kind of actively participating in or proposing to ensure that the genders are equally heard and represented in the, in either the corporate setting or technology setting, innovation setting?
Yeah. Well, there are many global accelerators that are here and local accelerators. One initiative that particularly stands out is called Ignite, which is part of DIFC. I'm a mentor there, and recently they hosted the first demo day for women only. So it was women AI startups that were pitching to me and my two fellow investors from NVIDIA and from Mashrek. They do a lot of work in that. So Ignite DIFC, and I think it's open for founders to apply and get all kinds of support. And then, of course, there are global accelerators that you have, like, Techstars and Founder Institute 500 Global, I think, is coming to the UAE soon as well. So there are E7, which is for Emirati women only. So there are a few initiatives that I've been, part of as a mentor or giving workshops. So yeah, there's quite a bit happening. I think if you look globally, we will find quite a few of them in the UAE. It's all about... We have diversity. In fact, when I speak to my Emirati friends, be it men or women, they tell me there is no issue with diversity or gender here. That is why sometimes, this part of the world is surprised when the West talks about, gender and how important that is. And people here feel, well, we know and we do this anyway. So we don't have to talk about it because it's actually part of our daily life. And I really hope that the West will get there eventually as well, because for now it's a lot, talk about it and it's more theory, but I feel without talking about it, this region is doing a much better job.
That's very, very nice to hear, because we've seen, whenever there's international events over here, for example, when we had the World Cup in Doha, when we had the announcement of the World Cup happening in Saudi Arabia, we had this uproar about, whatever happens in this region, and it's very refreshing to hear your take that it's already established in this region. So what's the West doing about it?
I have so much to say on that topic. In general, I think the West could learn so much from the UAE, from emerging countries in general, from the global South. So much. I have a whole keynote on it. I think what Europe and the West, the rest of the Western world needs to do is to actually really take a step back, be a bit more humble, and not come across as this I know it better type of, white attitude. I think we need to listen to the global South much more, because innovation is happening in the global South. I mean, look at UAE, look at India, look at Brazil, Africa. I mean, you can pay for your tomatoes on the market with an app in Africa, just with your phone, right? Same in India, whereas in Germany and many places, it's still cash only. So I'm a big fan of what's happening, in the global South in terms of innovation, and we need to look at it much more and learn from the global South in general as Europeans.
Right. So we've spoken about, the Future Foundation. We've spoken about all of the work that you've done for Fit Beyond, which is your very incredible sounding community. I would love to hear from you. You've lived here for 10 years. You've seen this whole transformation happening in Dubai, not just in terms of work, but also culturally. Because I grew up here myself, and what Dubai was back then is not Dubai that it is today. When I was growing up, I think the most exciting thing that we had was this one mall that doesn't actually exist anymore. And that was the only source of entertainment that we had. But today, Dubai is a completely transformed landscape. So what are some of the cultural things that you enjoy about Dubai? You know, as a person from Europe, you've, born in Kazakhstan, you've got quite a bit of diversity in your background. So I'm sure these are some things that you look for in Dubai as well.
Well, Dubai is amazing because you can be in your office and work, and then if you feel like going to the beach, it's right there. You can dip into the water, be it beach or pool, and go for dinner. I mean, I think it just offers such a beautiful lifestyle that is hard to find in many other places.
And how about balancing work and life and other interests? How does that work out for you?
Well, there are a lot of sports opportunities. You can go cycling in the desert. You can go horse riding, which I do very often. There are so many yoga places, so many well-being opportunities in general, because there's so much on offer. And culturally, you have Dubai Opera. You have,
just a lot going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your insights, Vera. I would now love to wrap this up with 3 top tips that you would like to share with the audience, be it cultural life in Dubai, be it professional life in Dubai, or just business. What are some things that people need to know when they make the transition into the UAE?
You know what I think is really important, and many people don't know, even some people who've lived here for a long time, but especially those who are moving here, is how easy it is to have access to such big organizations like Emirates Airlines or Do or Emirates Post. Just today, I received an SMS from Emirates Post, for example, that my Emirates ID is ready for pickup. And I was like, okay, how do I know that I can go, or do I need to do delivery? I can just go on Twitter, X, or Instagram and message them directly. So that ease of doing business, of getting answers from big players, you can't find it anywhere else. And many people coming from Europe don't realize that this is possible, because in Europe, nobody will answer to you on Instagram. But you can just message Emirates Airlines, you message Emirates Post, you message Do, the telecommunications provider, and they get back to you instantly. So the customer service is on point. It's amazing to be a customer here, because everything gets done very, very quickly. So I think this digital way of solving any issue you might have is absolutely unprecedented and a big part of making life easier in Dubai.
Great. That is, I think this is one of the things that might even give people a bit of a reverse culture shock when they leave this part of the world.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
Because I've heard so many stories about people, who go back home and suddenly they're hit with, oh, I can't just get this done instantly. I have to wait for 2 to 3 business days. What's that about?
Yeah, or send a fax, like as many times in Germany.
Yeah.
Once you have lived in Dubai, I think it's very easy to go back to Europe. I'm experiencing it right now myself, and I'm already thinking, how can I relocate back here?
Yeah. And how about, for female founders, or just, founders who are looking to navigate this industry, is there anything as like a holy grail that you would say people need to keep in mind?
I think it would really help to be part of certain networks. Just really don't try to solve everything on your own. There's so much support from founders who've been here for a while.
Yeah.
Join different communities. There are so many, and they're quite out there. They're visible. There's the Female Angels community that I was part, founding team of 22 female angels. There is Crunch Moms. There are communities, accelerators, incubators. I think there's a really big desire to support, and everybody is building something. Everybody is creating. I mean, the energy is just absolutely uplifting. So yes, if you move to Dubai and you're looking for ways to navigate the city, I think joining events that those communities host is really useful. There are Tech Tuesdays, Tacos Tuesday. I mean, there are so many events for founders that happen in the city that are really helpful to understand and to navigate. People are very helpful in Dubai. They sit with you, they give you information, and that's I would suggest to all the new people who are looking into moving to Dubai, tap into those communities. They are very helpful.
Yeah. That's true for new and old, because anytime that I meet someone new at any event that I go to, you never know when they're going to be useful to you, or just, come to your aid when you need it. I met the most, people in the most random of industries that I wouldn't even think I need access to. And then a few weeks later, I realized I actually do need to speak to them. So that's wonderful.
Well, and also what's interesting is, you pivot in your life as well, right? I've pivoted in my life 3 times already. I started as a professional dancer. I pivoted into political science, worked in the European Union, and then I pivoted into technology and innovation and venture capital. And now I'm at my next pivot, much more into foresight and leadership, because all of us, we reinvent ourselves constantly, right? So it's, and also Dubai is so fast moving that people move quite a bit as well. And that's been actually maybe also something I should mention. It's been really impressive how quick the pace is here and how also quickly people can move and change industries.
Well, Dubai is a cultural and professional tapestry.
100%. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today, for your insights today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. And I hope that you also enjoyed this conversation. And I hope that you continue to inspire leaders everywhere.
Thank you so much. It really was a pleasure. And I hope this podcast will reach millions of people so they know how amazing Dubai is and they'll come at least to visit, to experience themselves.
Of course. As they say, Habibi, come to Dubai.
Yalla.
Well, that is all from myself and from Vera. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed what you heard, give us a follow, share and subscribe. Until next time.